can run any one of the built-in reports by going to View Repository, okay? Or you can actually click the repository button that you'll see on the screen. That's going to bring you to a chart of different types of events that are available to you. Now, when you run a report, it opens up in the center portion of the screen. That's the report viewer, and you get a display panel on the left-hand side here. Okay. Now, this is a set of input controls, and this is going to allow you to set the parameters and filters that you want for the report that you're after. Okay. This column does change depending upon the report that you're actually looking at. So when you modify any of these parameters, the report manager will regenerate the report with the selected parameters. So in this case, it's telling me that I have all of the appliances selected, but if I wish, I can go in and select one particular account and have it display just the information from that particular appliance. I can also use the save option down at the bottom, and that will save my input controls. That way I can reuse them from a single select drop-down available at the top of the panel. So briefly, I just want to take you through some of the reports. As I said, we'll talk about a few of the others as we're going on. But here we have, first, the groupings are Audit, Jobs, Protection, SLA Compliance, Summary, and Utilization, as you can see in the panel. So by highlighting the audit reports, I see that there are two reports here. The Audit Trail Report by Appliance. And it does give you a very short description of that. If you click on that, it will tell you that it provides an audit trail of the configuration and other commands that were executed on the appliance with the details of which user from which system initiated the command and the status, did it succeed or fail. The Events Detail Report I mentioned is part of the dashboard, shows you the event details on a particular appliance over a selected period of time. Going to the Jobs Report, so we have a few here, and that's, as you can see, the first one listed, Application Backup Status by Consistency Date. So that's just going to tell us exactly what it says. The backup job details with successful image and data handling for each of the backup jobs. Then we have a detail screen, which does exactly what it says. The detail related to each of the backup job types. A summary providing us just that, a summary of all of it. The failed job reports. So the failed job reports provides a failure status for the different types of jobs that are processed by the appliance for each of the protected applications. The key here is that only failed jobs are reported. This is actually a report, incredibly useful because it tells me all of the jobs that have failed and why they have failed. But actually, it's one of the reports I don't use very often personally. And the reason I don't do that is, as we'll see in a little while, there's another report that tells us about SLAs and our ability to comply with our SLAs. And if we fail a job, that's also an SLA violation. So I have a tendency to not really look at the failed job reports as often. I instead look at the SLA violations report. So when I get to that, I'll mention it. Next one on my list here, Job History Summary by Application. That's going to tell us, as it says, every application is protected by executing a set of jobs depending upon the policy, so we get to see how that worked. Right? Recovery Job Details is going to tell me really the effectiveness in restoring an application's backup data. And then the Recovery Job Summary lists just what it says, a summary of that information. And the Recovery Point by Objective shows us the last backup time for all of the protected applications. I'm going to talk about that one as well because that's a great report. Moving onward to the next one on the list, we have protection reports. So the protection reports do just that. It's telling us what's going on based upon the ability to protect information. So the first one, as it says here, shows the effectiveness of the protection optimization. It's going to aggregate the total amount of data and the elapsed time of the four major, as we call them, job categories, those being snapshot, dedupe, restoration, and replication. The next report, History by Operation, does exactly the same thing. It's just telling us a different view of the way that is displaying the information. So whereas one is based upon the app, the other one now here is based upon the operation. So all the snapshots are listed together and so on. The protection ratio for SLAs shows us just that. What is the ratio for each of the SLA types within the application? So a report that I do use when I'm dealing with trying to plan ahead, the capacity planning of the system. And the last one is the same thing, only it shows us the protection ratio based on the appliance. So as you can see, some of the reports are in a way almost duplicated. It's just a level of detail or the way the information is being presented and filtered. SLA compliance. So this is actually where people spend a lot of time, the reports that really come out great for what's going on with the system as well as planning ahead, that capacity planning that David actually covered in a webinar a couple weeks ago. So going quickly through these ones. Daily protection status. This is a color-coded display of compliance. So it actually tells us what we expected to do and what we actually did. I probably use that one among the most, along with the violation summary screens. The table is exactly the same information. It's just in a table form instead of a graphical form. Restorable images is going to tell us all of the images that can be restored. SLA violation details, that's, as I said, that's going to show us the information about the compliance, a historical performance on a daily basis. The violation summary is that summary. And again, what I like there is not only do I get the jobs that have failed, it will tell me things that if the schedule is turned off, jobs that did not run for some reason. And it's going to show me for every appliance all of the categories, snapshot, dedupe, and remote, and how they performed. And then we have a violation summary that's limited to just the last 24 hours. Next category, summary reports. So application protection coverage and protection policies. You know, a lot of people are sometimes saying, well, what are the various policies I have in play? You know, I can go and look at each of the SLA templates. I can look at the policies, they're displayed there. This report is great because it shows me all of them. I can see what's going on for all of the corresponding policies, what the RPOs are, what are the retention rates that are associated with each of the policies within an application. The application protection status report provides a list of applications with their protection status. So we have different modes by which we can operate, right? We have discovered but unprotected, we have protected, and we have protection disabled. So I can use that report to see what the status of all of these are. Next is the environment summary report. Another report that I happen to look at quite often for my systems that shows me a summary of the resource consumption and usage for each of the applications in a tabular form. Organizational membership, exactly what it says. It's going to list all of the associations by which applications are members, so I can see who belongs where. Overall appliance summary, another report that's a great report to look at, includes storage pool VDIS utilization daily usage trend over the last 15 days. And what I like about this one, in the capacity planning webinar that was held, as I said, David conducted that a couple of weeks ago, actually talked about this. What happens is not only do I get to see what happened over the last 15 days, but this will actually predict what's moving ahead. So I'll get a prediction of, based on that trend of the last 15 days, what's going to happen with my storage? What does it look like it's going to happen with my VDIS utilization? And the report manager dashboard I mentioned. The last category, utilization, is actually the largest, as you can see. There's lots of utilization-based reports. And in some cases, it's just a slight variation of the information. It's the way it's being presented to us. For example, the very first report on the list, cumulative VDIS utilization, tells us all about the VDIS. You know, what are the existing and new applications using as far as VDIS is concerned? The next one is the daily dedupe pool. Same thing. What is the contribution of existing and new apps in the dedupe pool? How am I using up my space there? And then again, for the snapshot pool. Bandwidth utilization history. Again, if you've attended any of the classes, I have a tendency to make light of this in some ways because I jokingly refer to our network administrators. And when a new Actifio system is put in place, it's amazing how often a network admin person might come yelling, saying, that Actifio thing is using up all of my bandwidth. You're tying up my network. And running this report and having it actually sent to that individual on a regular basis will provide them with the information that shows exactly how much bandwidth we are utilizing on an hourly trend. And then there's a series of licensing ones. They're going to tell you exactly what's going on with your licenses. Okay. Snapshot pool consumption and utilization histories come next. Again, those are telling me a little bit about how I'm using the space, and I can use that as well to plan for what's going on. I can do some trend analysis there to see how am I currently using space and what it projects for using space. There are also similar ones there for the dedupe pool. Storage resource trending, I'm going to talk about that one in a little bit too as well. That shows us, again, what's going on. It allows us to forecast for future consumption of the resources. And there's a summary of that, as well as another one of my favorite, the top number of applications using dedupe storage. So I want to see who's using up most of the storage. How are things behaving within the system? One of the key things we want to be very concerned about is dedupe pool usage. Right? Some applications do not dedupe very well. Images, encrypted data, as an example, do not. We expect to have a large consumption rate within our snap pools because we're bringing in native format information. But when we dedupe it, we really do look for an efficient reduction in the amount of storage space that should be there. So this report will show me who's using up all the space. And I want to identify specific applications that can be used and say, okay, why is this particular application consuming all of that space?
Thank you for joining us for another YouTube Tech Tip video. If you like the content you're seeing on this channel, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you will be alerted to any future content.